Hello, and welcome to another episode of This is the Greatest Song I've Ever Heard in My Entire Life. I'm Scott Interrante, and today joining me is singer-songwriter Claud. Claud, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you about all kinds of things about your taste in music and about this amazing song that you picked, which we will get to in a bit. But I know that you just put out a new single earlier this month. You have a new album coming out. You're going out on tour. Do you want to just start by telling us a little bit about all that, and then we can keep going from there?
Yeah, a lot of stuff happening all at once. I put out a new song this month called Every Fucking Time. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on podcasts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, it's fucking called Every Fucking Time, and it's the best fucking song ever.
Amazing.
And yeah, I directed a music video for it. It was my first time directing, and the video stars like one of my favorite comedians, Grace Schmidt. My new album is called Supermodels. It comes out in July. I'm so stoked.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm doing a whole Supermodels tour in the fall.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And playing a little bit with Boy Genius before that, right?
Yeah, I'm opening 2 shows for Boy Genius in June. Oof, I'm so excited. I'm so nervous. So much stuff.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, first, let's start by taking a quick listen to a little bit of Every Fucking Time.
Done rehearsing lines. I just can't believe it, but I believe it every fucking time.
Well, let's travel back to the beginning. You know, is there a particular moment that you remember, whether it was a song or an artist or an experience that you had that made you first fall in love with music?
Gosh. I mean, there were like a few moments in my life where I've thought that. One of them when I was like 11 and I was in love with Justin Bieber.
As we all were.
Yeah.
Are. Yeah.
It was interesting because his voice in 2011, which is when I was 11, sounded a lot like my voice sounded in 2011. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is me on another plane. Like I like loved seeing another kid just like expressing themselves so boldly. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, when I was in college, I got really into Big Thief and I got really into Phoebe Bridgers. And I had a radio show and I was going to all these shows in upstate New York where I could be like essentially breathing on the artist that was playing because they were so small. And like the shows were so tiny and we were in upstate New York. So the markets weren't huge. And then I was like, oh my God, this feels really like something I could do too. I'm in love with it and it's very accessible. And
at that point in college, you were already writing songs though, right?
Yeah, I started a band called Toast with a friend of mine and I had been playing a lot of shows and we released a couple songs. And I also was like putting songs out under my own name on SoundCloud.
Yeah. When you were first writing those songs, were there specific influences that you were trying to go after? Or do you think it was just like you were inspired, like you were saying, by people expressing themselves and then that was encouraging you to express yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like all through high school and stuff, I was writing kind of like almost like folk leaning like pop songs. Like it was kind of like strange blend of like Taylor Swift and folk music.
Yeah.
And that's the music I was making. And then when I got to college, I got really into like indie rock. I wanted to make indie rock music so bad, but I literally didn't know how. I was like, gosh, it's not in my blood. Like, what am I doing? And then I just started making like weird pop music and playing like with indie rock bands. And then eventually it just kind of all blended. But you know, I don't even know what genre is anyway, so.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is it's really like, it's complicated now, I guess, right? Everyone's kind of doing a little of everything. Do you find that like you listen to music that way too? Like, do you sort of just jump around all over the place in terms of what you listen to?
Yeah. Me being on aux is like my friend's worst nightmare. Like they hate it when I'm on aux because it's like, okay, we're going to cry and then we're literally going to be like this bumping within a span of 4 minutes. So everyone be ready.
Yeah, that's awesome. And nowadays, I mean, do you feel like obviously you're so much more established at this point as an artist yourself, and people, are playing you on the aux. Like, do you feel like you have a different relationship now when you listen to music because you're maybe more in it, or a lot of these people that you listen to, or are you able to kind of still be a fan?
I really do consider myself like a fan of music first before like anything else. It's kind of too difficult for me to like comprehend other people listening to my music. So I'm just like, well, I'm a fan of music and I also put it out and I think people like it.
Yeah. I mean, but is there a way that like putting things out and getting a response, has that changed either, the way you listen to stuff or the way you write music?
Totally. I think if anything, it just makes me a little like more nervous, but it's not going to change anything I'm already doing. Before like announcing my new album, I'm like shaking, because it's stressful and I feel like I'm building like my discography's building, and I want the way that people look back on my music 10 years from now to be like, oh yeah, and I remember this era and like this one was really important to me because, it's just like I feel like I'm looking at it like more long term now instead of, me being like a teenager and releasing songs and seeing if people like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the best advice I ever got was that like the moment you start caring about how other people perceive your music is like the moment you like cease to be an artist. So
yeah,
I don't know how, I'm sure other people have conflicting opinions to that, but I try and stay true to that as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten to know, like we said, you're going on tour with Boy Genius. You've played in the past with Jack Antonoff, including on Saturday Night Live. You've become peers with a lot of these artists who I imagine you listened to and looked up to and were inspired by in some way. Have you been getting a lot of advice from them? Is it just weird to have a relationship with these people where you are now peers?
Yeah, it's super weird. Yeah. Yes. But also it's not weird because it's almost like I have like two different types of relationships with these people who I admire so much. And in a lot of ways it feels like a mentor type relationship, but it also feels like a friendship. And then there is also the layer of like me just being a big fan, It's weird. And sometimes I'm like, what? Like, how did I meet these people? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, obviously we're talking about songs that you love, great songs. When you hear a song that is able to knock you off your feet, sweep you away, do you find that there's some sort of connecting thing? Are you listening for lyrics? Are you listening for music or production or anything like that? Is there some sort of common trait that you find to be great?
I always wonder that too. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will let you know when I figure it out, but it kind of, I think maybe I'm drawn to melodies first. Mm-hmm. I'm drawn to like the melodies and like the overall concept of the song. And then I'll like really dive into the lyrics. But sometimes I try not to dig too deeply into like what the artist is saying because I just project so much of myself into the song that I'm like, do I want to know the full truth or can this just be like my interpretation?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm into the songwriting of it all. I think maybe like I listen to the songwriting before I pay attention to the production, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, do you approach your own songs the same way? Like, is there a point where you're listening to something and it's done, or oh, this isn't done because it's not hitting me that same way yet, or do you sort of find that they just come fully formed?
I mean, every song is really, truly different. I'd say like for a while, I would always start with production when I was writing, and I would like really... like that would be my favorite element of making music was just like usually working with another producer and really just like get into something that felt really good to both of us. And now I write first on guitar or piano and then I start producing it.
Yeah.
That's what I do most of the time, but I'd still say like a lot of my writing happens with the production and the songwriting kind of like happening at the same time. But I'm trying now, but I'm trying harder to focus more on writing first and then recording.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Is there like, have you just found better results or you just like doing it that way?
I don't know. It was just like a stylistic thing for me. I know why. Depending on the producer, but like when you're working with somebody else and they are like an Ableton dude and they have all the plugins and they've got all that stuff, I'm like, wow, I could write with a million different instruments right now. And that like really stimulates my songwriting brain. It like really gives me a lot of ideas, but like sometimes when I'm just working on a song, just me and like my guitar, I get in a rut with it, or I get stuck, there's nowhere else to like go or turn to like re-stimulate my ideas, you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes I do find it helpful to like have a bunch of instruments, even if it's like different synth sounds, like accessible while I'm writing, to like keep the song feeling new and keeping my ideas fresh.
Yeah. So, of course, one of the songs that stops you in your tracks, makes you feel that way, is what? What is the song, Claude, that makes you scream, this is the greatest song I've ever heard in my entire life?
Call Your Girlfriend by Robyn.
Such a good pick.
Thanks.
So good. Yeah, I love this song. My producer, Catherine, and I are both... it's shocking that no one's done a Robyn song on our podcast yet.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy. When was the first time you heard this? Do you remember when this came into your life?
Yes. The first time I heard it was like 10 years ago. So I was like 13.
Mm-hmm.
And these two like sisters on YouTube, Lennon and Maisie.
Oh,
they
yeah.
were like around
Yeah.
my age too. Well, I guess Lennon was like 12 or whatever. They posted a cover of it on YouTube and it went like really viral. I immediately was like, what is this song? And then I became like a big Robyn fan at 13. I was like, call
Yeah.
your girlfriend, you know, just like, and my friends were like, what are you listening to? What's that pop music? You know? But yeah, that's how I first heard the song, was through that viral YouTube video.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the amount of times I tried to make a video as good as that, like covering the song. I'd be like, okay, Mom, now record me in this room. And she'd be like, oh my gosh. Because they were like banging on these like butter tubs. I think it was a big scene in that movie Pitch Perfect. And that was just a trend at the time, was like the cup song and stuff like that. And like, I'd be like, okay, now we're going to try a mustard bottle. And my mom would be like, oh, no. No, we're not.
Yeah. Wow. I love that so much. I mean, but now, you know, obviously this song has stuck with you. Are there things like specifically about the song that really like stand out to you that makes it so great?
Yeah, I think it's the perspective of the song.
Absolutely.
I myself, as a songwriter, have written so many songs of like, oh, I love you, but you're dating somebody, and like, can't you just like break it off? It's such a like, why didn't I think of that concept? You know, but it's so brilliant. Like the perspective of the song is so bold, so badass, and also just so heartbreaking and so desperate.
Yeah.
It's like, just call your girlfriend, just like tell her that you found somebody you love, you know? And it's so sad to hear the perspective of like Robyn being this like other woman and being so in love and wanting so badly to be with this person who is partnered.
Yeah. Don't you feel that it should be a country song? I always like, when I think about the concept of it, I'm like, I really want to hear this as like a great like country torch song. You know, I think it could be there.
I think you're saying that because I'm like under the belief that like country songwriting is some of the best songwriting ever. And so every time I hear just a really good song, I'm like, this could be a country song. And I'm like, well,
yeah.
I think if you say this could be a country song, that's just coded for this is a really great, well-written song.
This is a good song. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think it's something about like you were talking about earlier, like the concept of it, you know, great country songs all have this very like conceptual basis of like, you can sum it up like this song, like you meet someone, you are in love with them, they have a partner, and you think that they should leave them for you. That's such like a country song concept.
Exactly.
You know, it's not more like vague or artistic. It's like really this concrete emotional thing.
Yeah,
that
extremely
I think works
specific.
so well.
Yeah,
but it's also, you know, it's universal, and obviously the pop arrangement is great as well. And yeah, it could just work anywhere. I think
it's such a good song,
even on cups.
Yeah, the production of the song is amazing too.
Yeah,
it's truly like what I define as crying in the club music, because I like that you could dance to it. Like, I'm glad that it wasn't recorded like a ballad.
Right.
I think that makes it sadder.
Yeah.
It makes it more devastating.
Have you ever covered the song?
Yeah. I think I have a cover of it on YouTube somewhere.
Oh,
I covered it pretty like early in the pandemic. I can't remember if it's a good cover or not, but it's on the internet somewhere. yeah, when I found Call Your Girlfriend, that was my introduction, well, to Body Talk. And yeah, I became a big fan of that record and just like of Robyn in general. I still have never been to a show of hers. Honestly, Robyn is like one of those artists that if I knew was a real person, like I know Robyn's a real person, but if I had proof of her being a real person, I would not know how to handle it. She kind of just like lives in an alternate universe for me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never seen her either. And the issue is that she's so famous that like when the last time she was here in New York, she played at Madison Square Garden. And that's like, it's not the right vibe that I want to see Robyn. Like I want to be on a dance floor, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be in a seat in an arena.
I know. But I like DJing her music and then
yeah,
that's really fun for me.
Well, Claud, thank you so much for coming and talking about this incredible song and so many other exciting things. If people want to find out more about you on the internet, where should they go?
Well, they can go to my Instagram is claud.mp3 and everything else is just Claud. There's no E at the end of my name. Everyone thinks that, but it's not there.
It's cool without it, yeah. And again, tell everyone about the new album and when to check it out.
Yeah, you can check out my new album, Supermodels. It comes out July 14th on Satisfactory Records.
Very cool. And make sure to find a tour date near you and go see Claud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again so much, and hopefully we'll talk more soon.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of This Is the Greatest Song I've Ever Heard in My Entire Life. If you like what you heard, and I really hope that you do, please consider subscribing, leaving a rating or review so other people can find the show, and tell a friend about it. You can follow us on social media at Great Song Pod. That's GR8 Song Pod on Instagram, on TikTok, on Twitter. As always, I want to give a special shout out to Catherine and Izzy who helped me co-produce the show, to Skylar Spence whose song Kratos and Love is our theme music, and to you, the listener. Look forward to talking to you next time.